Hey guys, and welcome back to the Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. Today's game up on the tabletop is called Ivion by Aislinn Hall. It is for 2 or 4 players, 15 to 30 minutes to play, and ages 13 up by Luminary Games. In the game Ivion, you're going to be basically playing a deck building / arena combat or tactics style game. You're going to be choosing between specializations and a race, putting those together to make a deck of 45 cards, as well as getting your specializations and traits, along with choosing terrain cards. This will make up a grid that's going to basically interact with your characters, and you're going to be moving around and fighting. Now, it's either a 2v2 combat system or a 1v1, in which on your turn you're going to be drawing cards, putting them into your hand, acquiring different types of resources, and spending them in order to use cards. Some of the cards are going to give you resources, some of them are going to cost you, and some of them are going to both give you and cost you resources, and you're going to be able to use them to attack, to gain more additional resources, or even to move around the board. You're also going to have additional abilities you can do, and special traits or unique ultimate actions that you can perform as well. As you go throughout the game, you're going to be trying to reduce your opponent's health points to 0, and if you're able to do that, you're going to win the game. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Here we have Ivion, all that it comes with. First of all, you're going to be in this big, huge box here that has inserts in it. You'll also be getting all of these cards and tokens and chits. The first thing you're going to see here are these ones here. These are going to be the classes. You get to choose 2 of these along with one of these specializations. There is 4, 8, and 12 of these guys here. These are the 2 decks we went ahead and set up already. We've got over here, these are the different traits you can be able to choose from based on these cards that you pick. That's going to form our 45 card deck. This is going to be terrain cards. There's 2 different types. You've got like the mountainous terrains and the forest terrains, as well as on the back it shows that they are difficult. You're going to be getting these as well as the little things you put attached to them. These are going to be your characters. They're like little standees. A bunch of die which you'll be using to calculate certain things, as well as you can be getting like slowed and silenced and disarmed tokens here, or dice. And then over here you've got power and then actions, and you can go ahead and choose to use these throughout your turn. Here are going to be a bunch of chits depending on what you're going to be choosing, what you're going to be using them for. And you're also going to be getting these cards here. These are going to be basically your reference cards that tell you what you do on your turn. Now, to begin the game, all you need to do is select one of these specializations. Everybody gets to do that, and then you're going to be able to pick 15 cards from it, along with a taking the passive / ultimate ability. Once you do that, you can be able to select these races over here, and you have to have at least 1 match. So if you went ahead and picked this gargantuan, you have to make sure you also pick another red, which is going to be a giant. But then you can go ahead and choose any other one you want. If you picked Avatar, you'd have to pick at least the white or the blue one here, so you could pick either the what's this one here, Manifest, or the Cryomancer, and then any other one as well. After you've done that, you take 15 here, and then 30 from either of these 2 decks that you choose here, and that is going to allow you to choose traits, and traits are going to be chosen based on the pips on the bottom of these cards here. So for instance, if I were to choose this guy here, along with this one and this one, you're going to have 6 pips. You're going to have 3 blue, and you're going to have 3 white. So you can go ahead and choose, if you'd like, this 2 blue here, and then you could also go ahead and choose this 3 white here, or 3 blue and 3 white, or any combination of the 2 in the pips here that are based on these 6 different pips at the bottom here. After you've done that, you should have your ultimate ability. You should have your 45 card deck along with 2 traits that you'll be using. You're also going to be getting a character based on the specialization you've chosen, along with a power and a action die here, and anything else you're going to be needing. Then you're going to set up the board, which we'll talk about in a bit, and take away everything else and provide yourself with these wonderful player reference cards next to you to begin the game. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the turns above. So begin the game, you're simply going to get a 4x4 grid. You can choose either of the 2 terrains, and you're going to set it on the side that is the nice terrain, not the difficult terrain. And then you're going to put your characters on either side, the far top left and the far bottom right. Then you're going to go ahead and get your character traits as well as your ultimate ability. So you got your ultimate, which also tells you your HP. This is a 40-point health watcher. And then of course you get your 2 traits. I've chosen triple blue and triple white here. You're going to make sure that you have your power and your action dice ready and at 0, along with your control dice at 0 as well. You got all 3 of them. You don't want to be controlled though, so make sure they start at 0. You're also going to get initiative markers, which will allow you to either move or simply to draw an extra card. At the beginning of a turn, you're going to have 5 cards in your hand. You're going to draw a card, and then you can play cards. They're either going to cost actions or give you actions, and they're either going to cost power or give you power. It's kind of a trade-off. On your turn, you can choose if you'd like to use your actions to move. You can use your control marker to move, and then your cards are going to be in a certain range in which you can go ahead and use them. Your objective, like I said before, is to reduce your opponent's HP points, but remember they also have passive abilities. Some cards are going to allow people to have additional hand size, or draw additional cards, or even heal every turn. As the game continues, you're going to be moving around the train, interacting with it, placing things on it, as well as attacking your opponents, and the 2v2, it works similarly as well. We're going to talk about the 1v1 though, so let's go ahead and go to the bottom, show you how it's set up, and how a couple turns are played. Now back to the game. As you can see, we went ahead and set up for 2 players, and you have his player deck, you got the hand of cards, along with his 2 trait abilities and his instant ultimate ability. Pretty powerful. Over here you've got Raven's Eye, Biting Cold, and Hammerfall. This is my character, and he is the Watcher. And you've also put up your health points, 40 for each player. You've got their initiative markers, you've got their power and their action die, and of course all their control markers here at 0. We went ahead and set up the board. It's a 4x4 as you can see, and each player is on each side of the board. We have all the additional tokens here that you can use for resistance and for healing and for difficult terrain, as well as some additional stuff we probably won't be needing in the game, along with all the extra characters here. These we might use when we actually put them on the board in regards to terrain movement, and depending on what cards we have in our deck, we can actually place them on top. To begin the game though, you're simply going to choose a first player, and then they're going to get 3 actions. You're going to look at this is the orange action die, put it at 3, and then you're going to have your hand of 5 cards and draw a card from the deck. As you can see, there's a bunch of different cards in the game. We'll go ahead and talk about a couple of them and show you the basics of what a card looks like. The top left-hand corner is going to be the cost in actions. The top right-hand corner is going to be the cost in power. The middle left area is going to be the range of the card, and then on the far left-hand side, it's going to tell you whether or not you can use the card depending on the highlighted areas. If you are controlled in any way on these 3 areas here, like let's say you had a 4 on slow, you would not be able to use this card, but of course you would be able to use this card because it does not have a highlighted area. You can also look at the bottom here with a little exclamation mark. That means it can be used as an instant, meaning it can be used on somebody else's turn. This is a counter. If it's a hard counter, it's going to get discarded. If it's a soft counter, it's going to go back to your hand. Whenever you are going to be controlled, for instance, it says if this card is countered, slow 2, your opponent will actually have to slow 2. So simply just like that. That's how countering works, and that's how slowing works. You're also going to be having normal abilities, like you're simply doing damage, as well as something like this, which target player mitigates 4 damage. You can represent that by using these, and mitigation wears off at the end of your next turn. And of course, advantages is whenever you do this card that says deal 6 damage to an enemy, it's going to cost you 1 action and 1 power. You can do the 6 damage, and then of course you can slow them for 2, provided that they already are controlled in some way. That's the basic idea of the cards. They're going to have the pips, which are used for, previously for deck building, and of course the type of cards they are in the middle. So let's go ahead and begin a turn, and we'll go ahead and start with my player since I already know my character. And to move, it's pretty simple. You can go ahead and select 1 to go ahead and move, and that'll cost you 1 action. You can go ahead and move 1 more time. It'll cost you another action. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my initiative token to let me draw an additional card here. Now I have to look, because remember, these cards are interesting as the way they work. This one says -1 to your power, but it's -1 to your action, but +1 to your power. That's going to deal 4 damage, so you can't use that. But you could use this one. There's reasons why you do that, even though it's not going to be very beneficial for you. So for instance, this was target player mitigates 4. It has a range of 1. So I'm going to choose it on myself. So it's going to cost me 1 last action, and it's going to be removed, but I'm also going to gain 1 power, and this is the power token here. Now remember, not all cards are going to give you power. It's going to be dependent on the plus or the minus symbol, which was something we had to learn along the way as to how our deck building works. Make sure that you get an equal amount of pluses and minuses in your deck. When you play that card, you have no more actions left. You're going to end the turn, and you're going to refresh this. You're going to additionally be gaining these throughout the game if you have cards in your deck that allow you to gain additional initiative tokens, but to start with, you're just going to have 1, and it'll be flipped back and forth. The next player is going to get to go, and he'll simply draw his card, and this player is going to be the Manifest Druid Survivalist, and he's going to be mainly doing a lot of healing. He's dealing 7 damage. There is durations for heal and whatnot, so he'll go ahead and gain his actions here. And there you go, he's got his 3 actions there. He'll go 1, and maybe he'll go 2, which will cost him 2 actions. And then he's got 1 more. Does he have anything that he has a range of 2 with? He has a range of 3 here, -2 power. And a range of 3 here, but -1 power, so he can't do those. But he does have this one right here. This says Seek. Look at the top card of your deck. Either draw that card or put that card onto the discard pile and draw the next card. It'll cost him 1 action, so he'll go ahead and do that. But he'll gain +2 power, and he'll get to do the ability as well. That's super awesome. So he'll get to, let's see, let me make sure I read it correctly. Okay, look at the top card. Do I want that card? Yes, I do, so I'll put it in my hand. If I didn't, I discard that. I put it in the bottom of my deck and draw the next one. That's pretty useful. And then after that, he's got nothing left. He could choose if he wants to go ahead and draw an additional card. You're going to have a maximum hand limit of 6 cards, but this player gets a maximum hand limit of 7 because he has the additional power, or sorry, the additional hand size of 8 because he has an additional one. 7 is the normal. So he's good. He's going to be done. And then, of course, it'll be my turn once again. Now, you can save actions if you want. You don't have to use them. You can choose to pass, but the max amount of actions you can have on a turn is 5. He's going to go back to his 3. He's going to get to keep his power, which also has a maximum of 5, and he can choose to go ahead and move. So he's going to go ahead and move 1. That'll cost him an action, and then let's see if he can do an action that is going to do some damage. He will. From the Fog, and that's going to cost 1 range. He's got that 1 range, minus 1 action, so he'll do that, and then plus 1 power, which is nice as well. It'll deal 4 damage to an enemy, so he'll take 4 damage. He'll actually remove it. He'll go to 36 life. Let's see if I can find it really quick here. And then he's going to be slowed by 1. So you're going to take this slow marker right here, and you're going to put it to 1. Now, when you're controlled, you can't use the cards that specifically tell you, you know, like whether you can use them. Like you can't use this card if you were slowed, right? But you're able to spend currency or power actions to get rid of this, and also when you're playing cards, you can do the same. So there's different ways you can actually remove the effects that you have controlled on you. So that's one thing. But I just did 4 damage, so that's pretty good. Can I do something else here? I can do 4 more damage, and I will do that. And that will also slow him 1 more time. And so he's going to gain another, I'm going to gain another power. That's pretty useful. And he's going to go down 1 more time to 32 health. We're getting there. We're ticking him away. And he is going to be slowed again, so he's actually going to gain another slow counter. Pretty nasty, right? And then, of course, the game is going to continue. I can choose to use this to draw an extra card. And the player is going to start the next turn, a Survivalist Elementalist, and he's going to start doing some crazy stuff here. Let's see here. He can choose to do this one. That one's going to be a deal 4 damage to an enemy, and then attach this to yourself for a duration of 3. It's going to give him, he has 3 actions now. It's going to go put him to 2. It's going to cost give him a bonus power here, and he's going to do 4 damage to me. So I would take 4 if I chose to. And then he is going to also attach this to his character, and for the duration of 3, he's going to be healing himself for 1 HP. So he'll actually just use this thing here. This will I guess maybe it's this one here. I guess it'll simplify. For 3 turns, he's going to gain a health. So every turn at the end of his turn, he's going to gain 1 plus 1 health. Pretty useful, right? And then he can continue the game. But that's the basic idea. You're going to be moving around the board. You're going to be interacting with the cards, interacting with the board itself. You're going to be using these cards. You can flip them over, and it'll have difficult terrain. It'll cost 1 more resource to move to this terrain. And of course, there are cards that are going to counter other cards and whatnot in similar ways to games like Magic and other tactics-style games. But that's the basic idea of how you play Ivion. Let's go ahead and talk about it above. So now a couple caveats of the game. I didn't explain something really interesting, and like I said before, you have traits and you have passive abilities. This character here, my Cryomancer guy, he actually has some cool stuff. He's got Hammerfall. Now you can use each of these once per turn, unless they say otherwise, or sometimes it'll tell you once per game. But this one's Hammerfall. Basically, whenever I have Mitigate up, I can do damage equal to my attack plus Mitigate when I use this, which is pretty useful. This is Raven's Eye, my ultimate, and it says target enemy reveals a card from their hand, and it'll cost me 0 actions and minus 1 power. If a non-attack card is revealed this way, I get to gain an initiative token, which is very useful. And then, of course, Biting Cold. When you slow a player, deal 1 damage to them. That's a passive and it lasts forever. Also, another thing is Second Wind. If you go down to 20 health or lower during an attack, you're going to be able to draw 5 cards from your deck instantly, choose 2 of them, and put the rest back. Then you're going to continue the route. It's going to give you a way of increasing your likelihood of survival. It kind of gives you a little step up in the game. There's tons and tons of different specializations. This one's an Ebon Mage with a heroic. You may play an additional attack card. Play an attack card targeting an enemy. When this card resolves, deal 2 damage to the target and heal yourself for 1 HP. That's pretty useful here. And of course, each and every single one of these specializations does something different. And of course, the races as well. So basically, my guy is all about putting down mitigation on myself to prevent taking damage, and then dealing out the rest of the damage of mitigation onto my opponents, provided that they don't do the damage to me. I also am able to, with my Watcher, look at people's cards in their hand, make them reveal them, and then gain stuff, which is pretty useful. useful as well. And each of the decks have something unique and something interesting. The other deck I was showing you was able to heal itself consistently while doing damage. And then you got something like this guy here. This is the Avatar. If you would Second Wind, instead draw 3 cards and heal yourself for 5. Stuff like that. Super cool passive abilities. There's a ton of decks, a ton of cards. There's no way I went through all of these. We played about 4 or 5 games of this, and consistently I was able to redefine my deck and create it. Another thing I want to say as a somewhat caveat, but it's very, very important when you deck build to make sure you do it very specifically. You need to make sure you have enough plus power cards and as well as minus action cards, right? If you don't get any power throughout the game, but you have cards that cost power, you're not going to be able to use those cards, and it's going to be a big problem for you. You'll know instantly as you're playing the game if this affects you or not. All right, let me go ahead and get into the review of the game and tell you what I think about it. So my thoughts on Ivion. Well, the first thing is there is a ton of choice in this game, which is both a positive and somewhat of a negative. Choice is amazing. In fact, when you first get the game, you're going to be overwhelmed because you're not going to know what you want to do. You're going to see all this cool stuff and you want to put it all together, and certain things you can take and certain things you can't take depending on the rules of how deck building works, which I explained before. But combining those cards with the different tactics and styles of the cards and players and characters and categories is kind of like, whoa, what is going on here? However, once you define the best interaction with the cards, the best specializations that go with specific races, and putting the cards together to make it work for you, the better the game is going to get. As long as you're willing to dive into a kind of deck building aspect where you're literally building a deck of 45 cards, this is something you're going to like. All the different ultimates and abilities and passives and whatnot are going to work together in certain ways, but may not work with other specific races. So you want to make sure that I don't want to get the giant with my ice dude, because it's not going to be as beneficial as maybe getting the frozen mage guy, right, and putting those guys together. So it's important that you go ahead and do that. But overall, super cool. I love the fact that there's so much, but for some people I could see that it'd be like a little bit too much, like, whoa, what's going on here? The art in the game, spectacular. Love it. I really like the art in this game. It takes me back to a lot of the Magic the Gathering art, and in some ways it's better. I really appreciate the fact that it's not only just a deck builder, but it adds tactics to it, and it gives you that 2v2 ability too, which is a lot of fun. It gives you a lot of deck building synergy, and you can go ahead and build decks together with your ally and try and combat what your opponents are doing as well. The moving around the board is pretty simple. It's a standard tactics style game. You spend actions to move, you spend actions to play cards, but what makes it so energetic and revitalizing for me is how much you can do and what you can do to change the game, and how each and every specialization has something completely different you're trying to do in order to win the game. Of course, it's very simple. Lose 40 health points or 30 or whatever it is, however much your health is, and you win the game, and you lose the game, and your opponents are going to win the game. But what also makes it intriguing is power, right? Power you actually gain and lose depending on the cards you choose and play in the deck. Like I said, that's a partial negative as far as when you first start playing the game, but once you start delving into it and understanding how deck building is going to work, you can see what cards are going to work better with what cards and what cards aren't. Now, some people might say, and I'm not sure if this is a fact or not, but that you're going to be able to build the best specialized deck as long as you keep playing, the more you keep playing. I do agree that the more you play, the better you're going to get, but there's still a certain amount of luck factor as opposed to, as in turn to what cards you're going to be drawing from the deck and how you're going to be playing them and interacting with your opponents. So even if you could build the best customizable deck in comparison to anybody else, you could still easily lose this game. Overall, though, Ivion is an exciting game. It has a lot of theme, it has a lot of story in it, and it's very energizing. And I love the style of the rulebook. Full pictures, full color, wonderfully done. The box is beautiful. The inserts in the box are great too. I'll go ahead and pop this up really quickly to show you. And setting it up was entertaining as well. It's basically like this standard deck builder box, but you have all these pieces in here. And of course, the middle is for all the tokens and all the different terrains. And it gives you options. I mean, heck, the game does some cool stuff too, like just things you wouldn't normally notice. Like, for instance, this giant right here, he's actually a larger standee than the rest of them. I love it when designers do that. They go the extra mile just to make it a little more lifelike, a little more story, and a little more thematic. So overall, Ivion is a great game, and I fully endorse it. This is my seal of approval. Alright guys, thanks for watching another Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. If you like this video, go check out the rest of our videos here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment. It all does help, and we do greatly appreciate it. As well as checking out our 2 new giveaways, one for Fire of Eidolon and one for space currently on a website, unfilteredgamer.com. If you're interested, go ahead and check out Ivion. In the description below, you can go ahead and pick up the game. If it sounds like something you'd like, if you like deck builders and you like tactics and you enjoy really good art, this is a game I definitely suggest you looking into. Also, go ahead and check out our friends, everythingboardgames.com and the Giveaway Geek, two great people, as well as a newer channel I'm putting up over here. Go ahead and read it in the description below. You can check that out as well. Alright guys, that's all I got for this time, and as always, I appreciate it and I look forward to seeing you next time in Ivion.